Imagine you are days away from marrying the love of your life and everything seems perfect, but one night they tell you a dark secret that changes everything. And what they say is so shocking that you have to question whether you can look at them or love them in the same way ever again. This is The Drama. It's a new A24 film starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, and it is one of the most controversial films of the year so far. In this video, I'll tell you what happens in this movie, I'll explain the ending and answer questions that you're left with. I've even got the words of the writer and director themselves to tell you exactly what this film is about, and it's not what you think. I'm MadMorph, this is my movie club where I talk about movies and TV shows that I like, and if you're new here, welcome to the club. If you're returning, welcome home. This is The Drama Explained. No AI is used in the making of this video. I do everything myself here. I write the scripts, I voice the scripts, and edit the videos. So be sure to subscribe if you're tired of listening to AI voices break down movies for you. The movie opens with a close-up shot of an ear and we hear muffled sound. It is the ear of Emma, played by Zendaya, and the sound is from her perspective. She's in a coffee shop by the window and Charlie, played by Robert Pattinson, sees her through the window and comes in. When she leaves her table for a minute, he sneaks a picture of the book she's reading so he can look it up on Google and pretend that he read it. The book is called The Damage and it's by Harper Ellison. Side note, this is not a real book, but it is in fact a reveal of what the writer and director is going to do next. Their next project is called The Damage. But back to The Drama. Charlie plucks up the courage to talk to Emma and stands behind her saying how much he loves the book. She ignores him completely and he walks away, panicking that people are looking at him, but then decides to try again. Emma turns and catches him mid-apology, explaining she's deaf in that ear and she had music playing in the other one. This explains the muffled sound. It's an awkward and slightly embarrassing first meeting, so Emma says to him, "Do you want to start over? We can just try it again." And Charlie literally walks away, sits back down, and they start their interaction over. We skip ahead, and this is actually a memory of the first time that they met, and now he's writing his vows for the wedding. We see their first date where he confesses he never read the book, he writes a joke in his vows about finding her laugh cute but repulsive, and he wants to talk about their chemistry in bed, to which his friend Mike tells him don't say that in front of the parents. We cut to Zendaya with her friends writing her vows, and we get the memory of their first kiss. We also see a memory of Emma having a panic attack when she thought she was having a heart attack when she realized how she felt about Charlie. This leads to her confessing that Charlie is not just her first love, but her first crush, and that they met at 28. She explains this away by saying, "I used to be ugly." This is important later. The credits roll as the couple practice a wedding dance choreography, and Emma says she'd rather just do a casual dance on the spot. She plays a song that Charlie claims she always puts on when he's in a bad mood. But the choreographer is having none of it and says by nature a wedding is performative. On the way home, they spot their wedding DJ doing drugs on a street corner. We cut to them discussing it with their two friends if they should fire her. To Charlie, it's not even a question. He says we'll just find someone else and he wants to replace her. Emma says it's not a deal breaker, it's not a big deal. The group discuss in depth what it would take to fire the DJ as they try to establish where the line is. This conversation and the DJ is really important. It comes back up later, but for now, what it does is be a catalyst for them to discuss what's the worst thing they've ever done in their life. With Rachel, who is quite possibly the most infuriating character this year, trying to bring up her boyfriend Mike's dog story. So to get it out of him, they all agree to share. Mike tells a story that he was with an ex in Mexico and that when a rabid street dog showed up, he put her between him and the dog as a human shield. Rachel reveals that she went to an abandoned RV deep in the forest with her neighbor when she was a child. She says he was slow, implying he had special needs, and that she dared him to get into a closet and locked him inside. Rachel confesses very matter-of-factly that when he started screaming, she just ran home and left him there. That his dad knocked and asked where he was, and she said nothing, and that eventually a search party had to go and find him, before adding, "It never came back to me." As awful as that sounds, the group seems to quickly move on from it and push Charlie for his, with him saying he doesn't have one and then, when pushed, saying, "I guess I cyberbullied someone until they moved away." With his friend Mike saying, "Who cares? You were 14, your brain doesn't even fully develop until you're 25. Then it's Emma's turn. They pressure her until she shares that when she was 15, she planned to go to her school with her dad's rifle, and for the sake of the filters here, we'll call it doing a mass. Charlie laughs in her face. He thinks she's joking and her friend Rachel looks horrified. They question her more, they're in total disbelief, and she has to say, "That's actually why I'm deaf. I was practicing in the woods and it was too close to my ear." Rachel is disgusted, saying, "You know my cousin's in a wheelchair because of a shooting, right?" She immediately makes herself the victim and makes this all about herself, which is a running theme for Rachel. This character is infuriating. Emma says, "I was only 15, and her friend angrily says, "Oh, that makes it okay." Compare this with just a second ago when Charlie's confession was batted away as, "You were only 14. Things escalate, with Rachel getting angrier and angrier before Emma drunkenly pukes all over the table and they leave. What happens next for the rest of the movie is the fallout from this confession. How will the couple and their friends actually deal with this new knowledge? Where is the line? What acts or even thoughts are unforgivable in today's world and certain cultures? Charlie has the classic reaction of wondering if you ever really knew them at all, and also going back through your memories and starting to look at things differently. While Emma imagines Charlie and his friend talking about her, his friend telling him you can't marry a psychopath and he should disappear and just go back to London. What actually happens is her thoughts are interrupted by Charlie returning home and he's got coffee for both of them, showing that he's still thinking about her. Emma suggests, "Let's just not bring it up, let's forget about it and move on." But Charlie says he needs to know, he needs to ask details. Emma explains they moved to Louisiana when she was 14. We see flashbacks of her being barged about, bullied and made fun of. She's an outcast. Charlie asks, how does a child even get that idea? Emma explains it wasn't an original idea. There are masses all the time, and she was intrigued by the aesthetics of it. This is another part that is important with Charlie being British, or more so the fact that he's not American. Like Emma says, "It's a whole thing online. I thought it looked cool." We see her walking around the house holding the rifle, taking pictures of herself, having it by her side when eating cereal. That it got her attention because she was a girl, that she believed she was the character she was playing. This conversation is interrupted by them having to meet their wedding photographer who wants to do a practice shoot. She gets them to say the things that they like about each other best, and Charlie seems to struggle listing things. He says empathy twice, which is important. And as the photographer takes photos, we see flashes of how Charlie is perceiving it. One time he's with Emma, then he's with Emma holding a gun. Now he's literally posing with Emma as the teen version of herself. This represents his fixation on this idea and that he's currently unable to look past it. He's even unable to smile properly in the photos, with the photographer constantly saying, "Just smile, just a normal smile, just, yep, let's smile." It shows how it's already changed everything. He's afraid that Emma is a psychopath, and he starts remembering times that she got angry or aggressive, how she would slap him in bed. Questioning all of their history, he asks how close she got to doing it. We see her attempting to record the video that would be found after it happened into a webcam. We see the contrast and contradictions in her room. Posters for gangster rap and music like Pretty Hate Machine next to children's toys of dinosaurs. We see sketches that Emma has done of herself wielding a weapon next to a sketch of a horse, alongside photos of ducks and puppies, reinforcing that she was a child, but also representing the types of things that would have been picked apart by investigators and press if it had gone ahead. The music that would have been blamed, the things that would have been ignored. Then we find out why she never actually went through with it. There was another shooting in town which claimed the life of one of the people at the school. This leads to a bunch of conversations, therapy sessions, group talk in school. It brings the subject up, and instead young Emma becomes an anti-gun activist, joining a group at school who meet, talk, and protest. I don't believe this is about her suddenly becoming anti-gun. It's about her finding what she needed the whole time: some friends, somewhere to belong, saying it felt like waking up from a bad dream. Charlie continues to fixate and struggle with it just like she said he would. He throws out things that remind him of it, like a mug with a gun on it, and edits his vows, removing all the lines where he said she has empathy. This is really important, and we're going to talk more about Emma's empathy at the end. He's even scared of the love of his life, his fiancée, while she holds a knife making a smoothie. Even the smoothie is blood red as she drinks it. He tries to find an excuse for it, asking if it's to do with when she lost a friend when she was younger and maybe she should talk to someone. But here's what's really important when they were having this conversation. He's walking back and forth wearing his wedding shoes. He is trying to stretch them out. They are clearly too small for him and uncomfortable, but instead of buying new shoes, he's just walking around his apartment trying to wear them in. He is struggling and suffering to make it fit. This is of course a metaphor for how he's going to suffer to try to make the relationship fit. showing how he'll choose suffering over change. This will come back up later, the shoes specifically. Charlie goes to his job as a curator in a museum, and there's an art photo book on his desk of girls posing in lingerie with guns. This seems to set him off. Equal part spiral, equal part fantasizing as he asks around, who put this on my desk, where did it come from? A nod to how he's fixating and seeing it everywhere and making it all about him, while also a little nod to the desensitization, glamour, and acceptance of guns in American culture. There are flashes in Charlie's mind of Emma being one of these girls in lingerie, and it shows that for all of his talk and confusion about it, even he is susceptible to the aesthetics, the sexiness of it. This is the brief idea that maybe it actually kind of turns him on, as the couple try to sleep together, but Charlie can't keep going. The rod be floppy. It's clearly on his mind to the point of distraction, so Emma says, let's start over. Just like she did at the start of the movie, she tries to roleplay with him that they're meeting for the first time. She says, is this seat taken? Charlie says, go ahead. She says, do you live around here? But Charlie can't play along, eventually saying, stop, this is stupid. And now we need to talk about Rachel, the supposed friend and maid of honor, because she wants to pull out of the wedding, so Charlie has to go and talk to her and defend Emma. Charlie says she didn't even do anything unlike you put the child in the closet. Charlie says she didn't come up with it on her own. Isn't this a whole thing in your country? There's one practically every day. He says, imagine how many people have thought about it or planned it and then just not done it. Rachel mockingly fires back, oh, so it's America's fault? And Charlie says, yes, I think it is cultural. Rachel says in order to go to the wedding, she'll have to ask for the permission of her cousin who's in a wheelchair as a result of a shooting. Rachel really just represents all of those really annoying people that have to make everything about themselves and grandstand on everything. She is the virtue-signaling victim that's not really a victim and just wants to tear others down and look at other people's behavior, when there is actually a very strong argument that Rachel might be the worst person in the movie. Because just like Charlie said, she actually locked someone in a cupboard, a special needs child. But again, it's raising the question, is that worse than thinking about doing something that's worse? Is it worse that Emma thought about it, or worse that Rachel did that thing? Where is the line, and when does it change how you look at someone? Charlie's looking for answers, and he talks to a co-worker, asking what's the worst thing they ever did, to which she says cheating. He tries to ask her hypothetically what she would do if her boyfriend confessed to planning the same thing that Emma was going to do. And she says, call the police. Charlie's upset he isn't getting the answers that he wants, gets emotional, starts to cry, and then kisses his co-worker, cheating, and it almost leads to more, but he stops himself. This scene is cut back and forth with Emma and Charlie firing the DJ. They agree to do it together, but Charlie totally wimps out, just complimenting the DJ and then sitting down, even saying, it was dark, so maybe we were wrong. Emma has empathy and never wanted to fire the DJ in the first place, but she does it now and accuses the DJ of being seen doing the drugs and fires her. This act both shows her trying to appease Charlie and do something he wants to happen even though she doesn't morally agree with it, and his own moral inconsistency. He was the one at the table that said, just get rid of her, we'll get someone else, but he isn't actually able to do it. It's time for the actual wedding, and things are not great between the couple. Emma is paranoid that Rachel is saying things, Charlie is paranoid about Misha telling people that they cheated. And while the father of the bride is giving a speech, there is a loud sound like a gunshot and everyone jumps. It's one of the most effective jump scares in anything I've watched for a while, but it's just the DJ using the wrong cables. There are lots of news stories of stampedes, rushes of people that are caused by sounds being misidentified as gunshots in America. To me, it showed not just that the couple are fixated on it and that we, the audience, interpret it that way, but also a little bit culturally that they're traumatized by it. Rachel, the maid of honor, is drunk and insists on giving one of the most awkward and passive-aggressive wedding speeches as a maid of honor you'll ever see. She's clearly not over it and is still making herself the victim. It's very telling when she tells a mean joke saying, I was surprised to be asked to be her maid of honor. I thought, haven't you got any real friends? Which we can kind of interpret is the case. She doesn't have any real friends. She never had a romantic interest in her life until 28 years old with Charlie, and his friends are her friends. This is a damaged, awkward, and outcast individual going back to her teen years. It also lets us know that, yes, Rachel isn't really a real friend, and even though she's the maid of honor, these two are not besties. Emma goes to the bathroom, she's trying to calm herself down, and she overhears Misha outside the toilet talking about how Charlie asked her what he did about if the boyfriend planned a mass, what would you do? She says it felt like a whole asking for a friend situation and that maybe he was talking about Emma. She confronts Charlie about it and goes to get Misha to talk to them together, but Misha interprets this as being about the cheating. She immediately says, "He kissed me, we stopped immediately, it meant nothing," exposing themselves, and that Charlie is also the reason she knows about the dark secret, asking, "Is it real?" So now Emma knows everything, but the wedding must go on. Charlie's forgotten his speech and makes a total mess of it. He mentions all the things he wasn't going to or supposed to, like her repulsive laugh, their chemistry in bed, and spiraling out, saying, "I don't deserve you," shouting at the wedding guests to stop gossiping she didn't do anything. He even says in front of everybody, "First of all, I'd never do anything to hurt you with Misha," which makes her boyfriend angry, and then he says, "Even if you killed someone, I wouldn't care," before turning to Misha and her boyfriend and telling them to shut the F up, and the boyfriend gets up angrily and marches towards him. We cut to Charlie coming home to the apartment, covered in blood with a busted nose. He calls for Emma, but she's not here. He pulls his uncomfortable wedding shoes off, revealing they've rubbed holes in his sock and busted his toe up. The impact of choosing suffering to make things fit. He leaves voicemails for Emma while we flash back to the boyfriend headbutting him, the chaos that ensued, and Emma leaving the wedding in the rain. Charlie sadly rests on the table and puts on the song that Emma would always put on when he's in a bad mood. He gets up and dances with himself, the wedding dance that they never got to have, the version of it that Emma wanted, not the choreographed, performative one. Showing that, yeah, maybe Emma does know him best. It also seems that when she puts this song on, it does cheer him up, despite earlier him saying it pisses him off. And then he stands there hugging himself and dancing before he pukes up everywhere. He then goes to a diner that Emma earlier said we should go there after the wedding. It'll be like the Oscars when they go and get burgers in their tuxes, and he sits down in a booth. Again, he's doing all the things that Emma said she wanted to do and that at the time he thought they were kind of not the done thing. But now Emma comes in, and as she walks past him, he says, "Hey," and she ignores him, going to order her food and then coming back. She says, "Can I sit?" He says, "Yeah." They both look sad. Charlie becomes openly emotional and starts to cry. Emma looks at him with real pity on her face and says, "Do you live around here?" It's her retrying for the third time this film the same roleplay that she tried to do earlier, them restarting, but this time Charlie plays along. He says, "Yeah, I live 2 blocks from here," and tells a made-up story about how he got beaten up doing something heroic. Emma says, "It's nice to meet you, Charlie," and puts her hand out. He takes it and holds it and says, "It's nice to meet you, Emma." They look at each other for a moment, and the movie ends. But what did it actually mean? What is this movie about? Did they really choose to start over? What happens after the movie ends? Will they actually stay together? I've got the answers from the writer themselves, so let's get into the ending explained. Now is a great time to hit subscribe if you haven't and like this video for more just like it, and give your own review of this movie in a comment below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let everyone else in the club down there know. Why did they start over, and what is this movie really about? This is the ending explained. The starting over is a recurring theme throughout the movie that's all to do with second chances. The film is asking us what is irredeemable, what is unforgivable, and more pointedly, where is that line when it's someone that you love? And if they cross it, can you look past it or look at them in the same way? Can things ever be the same? At the end, it's Emma's empathy which brings them back together, possibly. She can't bear to see Charlie crying and suffering. She is once again doing the work of starting over, initiating the roleplay with him multiple times in the movie, and most importantly at the end, it's saying, "I'm willing to look past what you did, I'm willing to start over with you." Because Charlie cheated. He betrayed her trust by revealing her dark secret to a co-worker, and he made a real mess and an embarrassment of things at the wedding, and he's also not been treating her particularly well. And it's because of those things that now Charlie is willing to look past it, to start over, because he has his own things that he wants Emma to look past. The sad thing is he wasn't able to do this earlier for Emma, for the woman that he claims to love. He instead fixated on her dark secret and what it means, while Emma, on the very same night that this has all happened, is willing to instantly try and move past it, just like she did at the beginning of their relationship and in the middle of this movie, and also when it came up and she said, let's just pretend it didn't happen. But as we've been shown time and time again, the majority of Charlie's suffering is self-imposed. It's decisions that he makes for himself, just like the shoes. We also need to talk about Emma's empathy and a dark theory involving Rachel, but first let's clear up what happens after the movie ends. Do they actually get back together, and will they stay together? This is the big question that we're left with, and I think the couple's main problem is that none of it is ever about forgiveness. We watch as Charlie and everyone else is only asking themselves, can I ignore this? Can I look past it? Can I see you as the person that I thought you were before I knew this? That raises the question, is this really about second chances, or are we just role-playing? Are we pretending to start over? Is this performative, just like the wedding? Charlie isn't practicing empathy. We watch him try to find excuses instead and to try to ignore it, even try to sexualize it. But he never actually tries to understand it, or to understand Emma and to forgive these things. Whether it is forgivable or not is a personal choice, and at the end we see them both just choose to ignore it. Charlie will ignore her dark past, and Emma will ignore the cheating. The answer is, of course, that you can't ever go back, that you can't unring a bell, that you have to work through it, and just like the shoes and the suffering, the relationship will be an uncomfortable fit. Here's what the director had to say about it. He said, this is a very personal story. It doesn't look at the societal levels of deciding where lines are. The movie's exploring your personal limit, the limits of how honest and how flawed you can be in your private life. He said, publicly is a very different sort of discussion. So what did he mean by that? He was telling us that this movie isn't necessarily about gun culture and reform, or even cancel culture. A lot of people think this movie is about cancel culture. He was pretty much saying, it's not about that. We can draw parallels to it, but the story he was telling was a personal one about where lines are with the people that we love in our life. As for if they stay together, he said, deep down, I'm a romantic. I am hopeful. I feel good about their future, but who knows? So what do you think? Do they make it? Let everyone know in a comment. Emma's empathy. Why does she have so much, and why is it important? Emma's empathy comes up many times during the movie, even though it's also the thing that everyone around her questions because of her confession. It's the thing that Charlie says he loves most about her in his speech over and over. But after he finds out what she planned when she was a teenager, it's also the thing that he deletes from his speech, showing us that it is the thing that's on his mind that's being called into question. It's the thing he loved about her most, and now he's not sure if it ever existed. He is literally worried if she's a psychopath and if she lacks empathy. While we, as the audience throughout the movie, probably, if you're paying attention, see Emma as the most empathetic character in this entire story. She has empathy for people all through the movie, while in her flashbacks and the course of the story, nobody has any empathy for her. I think Emma would quite like to leave it in her past. She admits that she was probably never going to tell him. She had previously claimed that she was deaf from birth, and that deafness, a reminder that is a permanent reminder for her every day of her life, telling her over and over what she was going to do. She is damaged physically and emotionally as a result of what she planned. Imagine remembering that every time you can't hear something and you're thinking about the fact that you're deaf because you were going to do that thing. But the people who love her aren't reaching out to her. They aren't having empathy for her or trying to understand it. They're just trying to get past it. There's no conversation of what could have possibly led her to being in that place or thinking those things. It's just, how could you? As for Rachel, she's definitely the worst character in this entire story and the worst behaved. There is also a theory that she might not be telling the full truth about locking that boy in the RV. When she's first confessing it, they ask her, well, what happened to him? And she says, I don't know. And it's only when they act a little bit horrified by this that she says, there was a search party and they found him, and it just never came back to me. Some people are now theorizing that maybe she just left this kid in the middle of nowhere and he was never found, and she's just pretending like it never happened, and that she's not a bad person as a result. The drama plays out with this quick pace and good writing that is, for such a heavy, intense subject matter, becomes for me quite funny and enjoyable. I thought it was a really funny movie. I don't think the tension was ever at those levels of discomfort that you get from an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm or a safety movie like Uncut Gems or Good Time with Robert Pattinson. Those films, there's so much secondhand embarrassment or angst that it starts to feel like you yourself are having a panic attack. I think the drama perfectly spins those plates and walks the tightrope of having enough tension to keep you interested but not enough to make you uncomfortable. The characters are flawed enough to be interesting but three-dimensional enough to not be unlikable, other than Rachel, who's awful. But the main couple feel incredibly realistic and likable and flawed and messy and perfectly acted by Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. Others might disagree. There's lots of people online saying it's such an uncomfortable subject matter that they couldn't enjoy the movie. Again, like Charlie, British, different sensibilities, and I thought this was brilliant. But what did you think? Did you enjoy this movie? I'd love to know what you think in a comment. And this was The Drama Explained. Like and subscribe for more like this. I do everything myself on this channel, and no AI is used for scripting or making the video or at any part of this process. If you want to watch another movie with me, click one of those videos on the screen right now, and if you want more of what I do, find everything else in the description for this episode. I have a gaming channel where I play games to help you sleep and hang out with you, and also a podcast where I read books to you for free. Find it in the description or at madmorph.com. Until next time, try to have a bit more empathy out there. Good night.